How you guys doing? Romaine here from Access Gourmet. We are excited for our mango and salmon ceviche. So a couple things I want to make sure that we note health-wise in regards to this dish. The salmon is going to be the most important element. We're not actually cooking this dish. We're using what's called a ceviche technique. So what that is when you cook seafood with essentially using acid instead of a heat element to it. So I want to walk us through today essentially how to be able to remove the skin from a fresh piece of salmon, how to be able to marinate the ceviche, and the proper protocols for you to be able to use. Again, I cannot reiterate this enough. Father's Day is a special day, but he's not gonna like it too much if he's sick at the end of it. So please make sure that we remember the proper steps and that we are making sure that the salmon sits in the storage and the ceviche liquid for the proper amount of time, okay? So, we're gonna start with a 6-ounce piece of salmon. We're using Atlantic salmon. You can use any kind of salmon that you'd like, sockeye, Atlantic, Soho, King, whatever you're looking to be able to use. The fresher the salmon for a ceviche, the better it is. I highly recommend that if you are going to be able to, if you are looking to make a ceviche, that you don't use frozen. There's too much water in it. It's not gonna give you the right texture. And make sure that when you are purchasing your salmon, that you are purchasing it from a quality purveyor as well, okay? So when we look to be able to take our fillet off our salmon, the first thing that we want to do is we have a beautiful tail end cut here, so it's going to be really easy for us to be able to work with. So what you want to do is you want to get your knife and you want to be able to remove a little piece of that tail. Now this technique is essentially going to be able to use for any kind of fish, but in salmon for particular, it's going to be a really easy technique. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in. We're just gonna remove a little bit of that flesh on the backside, and we're gonna expose that skin. So as you can see, my skin has been exposed on my tail end, and I'm gonna hold that tail in order to be able to take off that skin. So what I'm now gonna do is I'm gonna hold my knife while having my 2 fingers holding that skin side down. I'm gonna hold my knife at a 45-degree angle, and what I wanna do is wanna lightly be able to pull that skin up. As hopefully that you can see right now is that I've gotten underneath that skin, and now I'm just gonna be able to hold that and pull back on that. When you get to around 15 to 20%, you can really get a hold of that salmon skin, and keeping that knife at a 45-degree angle, I am just gonna do what's called a pull and push technique. So, as I am pulling the skin with my left hand, I am going to be pulling my knife across that same angle, keeping it at a 45-degree angle in order to be able to remove that skin. As we get down to a halfway point, I just want to make sure that my skin removal is tight, keeping everything nice and snug. As you move down the salmon, you can readjust your hold to make sure that grip is very nice, okay? Once you're completely done, your skin should come off quite easily, and the back end of your salmon should be clean as well. Now, for our salmon, we want to make sure that if there's any belly trims or anything excess cuts that we want to take off, we can go ahead and do that right now. All right, so we're just going to remove all that what we have there. Now, for your ceviche, you want to be able to get your salmon to a nice dice cut. Now, your size of your dice is going to dictate how long it takes for that ceviche to be able to marinate and essentially cook. And I use cook, again, loosely, simply because we're not actually using heat. We're gonna use our acid blend to be able to cook our salmon. So you wanna make sure that your salmon dices are nice and small, nice and cube cuts, consistent cuts across the board. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna cut long strips of my salmon. Lay them off to the side. And again, consistency here is going to be important. You want to have all the sides the same so that the marinade activates the same way with all pieces of your salmon. So, begin to smallly dice my salmon up. Transfer my salmon to my bowl. You want to cut them a little bit bigger, you're more than welcome to do so. Again, the size is going to be important just simply because the bigger it is, the longer it takes for that marinade to really sit in effectively. So you want to be able to get it around that small, medium to small dice cuts. Now, once you have your salmon cut, now it's going to be the time for you to be able to add that marinade to allow that to sit. Now, we have a half a cup here to 4 ounces of salmon. If you're going to increase your salmon, you want to make sure that your acid blend is going to increase as well. So in our half cup of acid blend, we're going to have half lemon juice and half lime. So I've squeezed probably around 2 whole lemons in here with actually probably 3 to 4 limes. You can make adjustments, variations between your lemon and lime. I do suggest that you have a higher amount of lemon to lime because the acidity count. If you are gonna look to add orange to this, again, you wanna make sure that those are all flavors that are all gonna work. Keep in mind that our Equilibrium beer from Nickelbrook Brewery is going to have a nice tropical flavor, a little bit of fruity notes, not as high, with a little bit of a bitter. Our mango and our acid are really going to be able to pair really nicely with that as well. So we're going to go ahead here and we're going to hit our ceviche with our acid marinade. Now we have a really nice marinade here, but we want to add a little bit of flavor as well to it. So what we're going to do is, we have a little bit of oyster sauce that's gonna have a little sweetness to it. So we're gonna go ahead and add that oyster sauce in there. We have a fresh touch of 1 tablespoon of soy sauce we're gonna add in there as well. And we have 1 tablespoon of mirin, or you can use Japanese cooking wine if you don't have any mirin, in order to be able to get that flavor profile. And what we're gonna do is we wanna make sure that mixture is all coated inside. Now, again, it's going to be important for us to remember 20 minutes is a minimum time that you want this to be able to sit. If you want it to be able to sit for a little bit longer, you can let it sit for up to an hour. There's a fine line between done and overdone in this sense, because the acid will continue to break your seafood down and it will become mushy. So again, 20 minutes minimum. An hour is probably going to be too long. So you want to kind of keep it within that gauge and then go from there. So you can put that aside now and then get your rest of your ingredients ready to go. Okay? Okay guys, we're back with our salmon. Our salmon sat in the fridge for probably 30 to 45 minutes. It's absolutely perfect. Just done enough for it to be able to have a nice little bite to it, but not too tough or mushy from that acid breaking down. So now becomes the really fun part, which is the assembly. Now, a ceviche is a glorified salad, right? So you can really plate it up however you'd like. You don't have to commit to a specific plating or a dynamics. Now, when we look at what we have here, as we mentioned, we are going to be pairing our ceviche with our Equilibrium from our Nickelbrook pairings today. So the fruity flavors, the hoppy nature is going to complement what we have here for our nice sweet, fresh, ripe mangoes. One thing that I do want to reiterate: not all mangoes are created equal. So if you are going to go get a mango, you don't want those mangoes that look like they're ripe on the outside, but they're tart like a piece of citrus. You want to get a really, really nice mango. You need that sweetness to be able to complement the salmon along with the Equilibrium itself. So please make sure honey mangoes are always going to be a nice touch. Mangoes from the tropics of Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, or even South America. So you always want to check for that as well. Okay? So we have our salmon that we've strained off all our acid mixture here. We have our honey mangoes that we've diced up. We have a couple pieces of mangoes here, and I just want to show a size. Now, the salmon's going to be the gauge of size that we use. So everything else that we cut, we want to be able to cut them in the same fashion. So we know what the size of our salmon is, so you just want to be able to get those mangoes down. You can peel your mangoes, you can cut them off. You can look to be able to take them off with a peeler, whatever you're looking to do. So I'm just gonna come across here, and again, really nice and easy. The mango is nice and soft. That tells me the ripeness of the mango as well. So I always wanna make sure that I'm also paying attention to this. Frozen mango will not work with this recipe. There's too much water in it, and it's actually just going to present you a really offside flavor. So you wanna make sure that you're checking that as well, okay? So we also have a fresh avocado that we've de-seeded already. So we're just gonna come over top here. And we're just gonna come across, and again, we are looking for similar dice to the same shape as our salmon. You wanna make sure your knife is nice and sharp, so you're getting your consistent cut that you're looking for. Once you have everything diced up, it's a really quick assembly, and it's about the right ratios and getting all the flavor profiles that you are looking for. Now, I always like to suggest that we start with our salmon first. When you are making ceviche, the mango and the salmon are the featured dishes, but you can also control how much of the salmon you are going to put in. If you'd like a little bit more salmon, more vegetables, or if you want to go more heavier salmon versus a little bit lighter on your vegetable dish or your mangoes as well. Okay, so in our case here, we're going to look to have probably half the amount of our salmon. So we had 6 ounces to start, so we're just going to add probably around 3 ounces of salmon to our actual ceviche mix for today. We have half an avocado here. I'm probably gonna add a quarter of my avocado. I can always add a little bit more if I would like. Now, I also want to be able to make sure our guests know this. Again, we don't want to get anyone sick with this, so keep in mind, after my salmon has come out of my acid mix, which is my lemon and lime, it is considered cooked. Not considered raw anymore. So I want you to keep that in mind so you can start to add everything. You can handle it freely. You don't have to worry about cross-contamination or anything of that nature. We have a whole mango here. My suggestion is the more mango, the better. I love me some mangoes, but if you don't happen to like mangoes, you can, again, control the amount that you'd like to add in. If you want to go half or a quarter. In our case, we're going to go probably around half of a mango here. Some very nice fresh grape tomatoes. They're gonna give us a nice little acidity and a nice little natural sweetness to them as well. Some fresh shallots. And for those who don't know, shallots fall into the onion family. Similar to a Spanish onion, a little bit sweeter, less acidity. Not as much acidity as, say, a red onion, for example. And then we also have some baby onion frills here that we're gonna toss in just for a little color and greenery as well. And we have a store-bought balsamic reduction. Now, the balsamic reduction is going to be acidic and sweet. Everything that we have in our dish already, we're just looking to recapture that and really just be able to deliver that, that final touch to our dish. So we're gonna add probably around a teaspoon of our balsamic vinegar to our dish. You're gonna come across, you're gonna take that, you're just gonna mix, get everything nice and tossed together. Now, if you happen to have some of your acid mix left over, meaning some lemon in your lime juice, you can go ahead and add a little bit of that to your actual mix that you have here. You don't necessarily need it because that acid has done the job that it already needed to do. But if you do want to add a little bit more acid touch to it, you can feel free to do so as well, okay? I like a little bit more balsamic reduction to mine. The color is good. I just want to make sure that that sweetness and that the acidic nature is exactly what I need it to be, okay? You don't want to crush the avocados. You want to keep them nice and whole. So if you are choosing fresh avocados, you want to make sure they're not too soft, but also not too green as well. So as I mentioned earlier, you can really look to finish your ceviche however you'd like. You can just grab a bowl, stack your ceviche with a little bit of greens. I've seen it plated with a little bit of arugula, a little bit of baby onions, whatever you're looking to be able to top that off. For today, we want to do a little bit of a finer touch to it. So we have a little bit of a stencil here that we're going to use for a little bit of presentation element, final touch to it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to get our ceviche right into our stencil here. This plate is a very nice appetizer. You can plate it as a main course, whatever you're really looking to do with this dish. It's just a really nice compliment. It's a really fresh dish. Summertime's outside right now. The sun is absolutely beautiful. So this dish is going to be perfect for this occasion. I'm gonna press that down a little bit. Again, you don't want to squeeze anything out. Just gonna squeeze out flavor. Add a little bit of our greenery on top. This is a little extra added touch.